If a narcissist suddenly vanishes, don't get comfortable. That silence is not calm, it's a setup. When they stop speaking, they are nowhere near finished with you. They're observing you. They're waiting to see if you crumble first. And here's the part almost no one prepares you for. The moment you feel that urge to check on them, send a message, or try to repair things is precisely the moment they've been planning for. Because a narcissist doesn't reach toward you, they entice you. If even a single one of these signs feels painfully familiar, pause for a moment and hit like so more people can understand this pattern, because awareness is the way you guard your peace of mind. When a narcissist goes quiet but remains present online, it becomes one of the most baffling and emotionally exhausting traps you can fall into. Their silence is never harmless. It is never by chance. It is a calculated stillness meant to pull you into a psychological pursuit. They know that attention, reassurance, and emotional checking in are your natural patterns. So they turn their absence into a weapon, one that feels like punishment and invitation at the same time. They won't block you because that would end their game. They won't message you because that would hand you power. Instead, they position themselves where you can see them but cannot reach them emotionally, creating a discomforting imbalance. They might stay active on social platforms, posting stories, liking content, or showing up online at the same hours you used to talk. These are not mistakes. These are signals. They are making sure you know they are still around and that you are still paying attention. This silence turns into a psychological test. They're waiting to see if you get uneasy, if you worry about what's wrong, if you start assuming you caused something. They want to shake your self-trust. Did I say something wrong? Did I overlook something? Should I fix this? The second you begin doubting yourself instead of examining their behavior, their silence has already succeeded. In their world, silence is a fishing line. If you begin checking their profiles more, refreshing your messages, or noticing even subtle changes in their activity, they feel the pull. They don't have to communicate with you directly because your attention is already drifting back toward them. They know exactly how your emotions work. They know you care deeply. They know you're compassionate. They know you dislike tension and unresolved conflicts. So they use this calculated quiet to let your imagination create the anxiety for them. You start wondering whether they are upset, whether they are hurting, or whether they are moving on without you. All of these thoughts grow into pressure, and that pressure slowly pushes you toward sending that first message. This is how they claim control again. Their silence is not a pause, it is bait, and they won't break it until you reach out and give them the emotional reassurance they've been waiting for. When a narcissist begins posting vague, moody, or self-pitying content, it's not because they're suddenly drowning in deep emotions. It's because they understand that your empathy is one of the easiest ways back into your life. They know that you don't pull away when someone appears to be struggling. You lean closer, you care, you try to help. And that's exactly why they create these carefully timed indirect cries for attention. They rarely communicate their feelings directly to you because that would require vulnerability and honesty. Instead, they use the public stage of social media to drop hints that something is off. They may share quotes about heartbreak, loneliness, being misunderstood, or feeling abandoned. They may post a sad selfie, a silent clip, or a cryptic caption like, "Some people never appreciate what they had," or "You never know who's fighting a battle." None of this is accidental. This is emotional bait intended to ignite your concern. They want you to believe they're hurting because of you. They want you to feel accountable for their sudden sadness. And most of all, they want you to end the silence first. This kind of content looks emotional, but it isn't real vulnerability. It's manipulation disguised as tenderness. It's a performance meant to activate the nurturing side of you because they know that if you see them portraying themselves as wounded or abandoned, you'll feel that familiar pull to check on them, to comfort them, to ask if they're all right. They also use these posts to rewrite the narrative by casting themselves as the victim in a vague and indirect way. They create the illusion that they're the one suffering while you're the one who walked away. This gives them emotional power because it flips the dynamic. You start questioning whether you misread them, whether they're genuinely hurting, whether you should soften your feelings. And once that emotional tug begins, the narcissist has already regained control. These self-pity displays are not about expressing pain, they're about generating pain. They rely on your compassion to reopen the door they themselves closed. And once you step back through that door, they know the dynamic shifts fully back into their favor. When a narcissist begins reaching out indirectly, it's one of the clearest signals that they're waiting for you to make the first move. They won't reach out in an honest, straightforward way because doing so would require effort, vulnerability, or responsibility. Instead, they use side door methods, subtle signals that keep them emotionally present without offering anything meaningful. One of their favorite tactics is using mutual friends. Suddenly, someone tells you they asked about you or your name came up yesterday. This is not casual, it's deliberate. They know the message will make its way to you, and they want you to feel like they still care but are too proud or too wounded to speak to you directly. Then there's the digital version, random likes, interactions with old photos, late night story views, or quick reactions that don't require dialogue. These little breadcrumbs are designed to remind you they're still around while keeping you confused. They want you to wonder why they're watching, why they're engaging now, why they're hovering but not reaching out. This emotional closeness creates tension, and that tension pushes you closer to breaking the silence. They may even orchestrate so-called coincidences. You run into them where they know you spend time, or they suddenly appear online at the exact moments you do. These are not coincidences. Narcissists are extremely strategic when they want to maintain a connection without taking accountability. They create moments that feel random, but the timing is too convenient to be coincidence. Their goal is to spark curiosity in you, to make you think maybe they miss me, or maybe they're waiting for me to make a move. Indirect connection gives them everything they want, control without vulnerability. They want you to be the one who opens the door so they never have to risk hearing no. They want to feel desired, pursued, and validated without ever having to expose their true intentions. Every tiny action is carefully designed to stay lodged in your mind, to push you toward reaching out first, and to renew their emotional hold. They don't need to speak to remain in your life. They just need to stay close enough for you to sense them and distant enough for you to chase them. When a narcissist leaves conversations or conflicts unfinished, it's not because they ran out of words or lost interest. It's a psychological tactic to keep you emotionally bound. Humans naturally crave closure. We want to understand what happened, what someone meant, how a situation ended. Narcissists understand this deeply. They know that leaving things open and unresolved creates discomfort, and discomfort compels you to chase answers. So when they abruptly stop mid-discussion, disappear during a disagreement, or walk away right when things are getting serious, They're doing it to ensure you return later on their terms. They count on you replaying the last conversation, trying to decode what went wrong. That mental loop is part of their control. The more you analyze, the more power they gain. They may throw out heavy phrases like, I can't do this right now, forget it, or we'll talk later, then vanish. These unfinished endings shift the weight onto you. You're left wondering whether you should reach out, fix things, or ease the tension. They scatter emotional loose ends everywhere because it keeps you psychologically tied to the story. Just like a cliffhanger in a series, they know you'll come back looking for resolution. This tactic also shields their ego. If they end a conversation abruptly, they don't have to be accountable, explain themselves, or listen to how you feel. They preserve control by avoiding completion. This creates emotional imbalance. You're left with anxiety and the urge to resolve things while they sit comfortably in silence. They know you're thinking about them, and that's the entire strategy. They want you to feel compelled to reconnect, to finish what was left hanging, to soothe the discomfort they intentionally created. It turns into a loop. They break connection, leave gaps, and wait for you to stitch it all together. In their mind, the one who seeks resolution is the one who cares more, and the one who cares more is easier to control. By leaving things incomplete, they position themselves as the person you pursue, and that pursuit restores their sense of dominance. When a narcissist begins breadcrumbing you through tiny digital gestures, it's one of the clearest signs they're waiting for you to make the first move. Breadcrumbing is their way of keeping you emotionally open while they invest nothing. It looks harmless. A like on a picture, a small reaction to a story, a sudden view on your profile after days of silence. They want you to reconsider your decision to distance yourself. They want you to think maybe they truly understand now, or maybe this time is different. That internal debating is where they regain the edge. Their temporary improvement also gives them moral cover. If you reach out, they can claim innocence. I wasn't doing anything. I've been working on myself. I've really changed. This creates a false sense of progress, tricking you into believing it might be safe to reconnect. But once you return, the mask collapses, the effort ends, the patterns resurface. Their so-called growth was never about evolving, it was about becoming more convincing. They know how to transform into the person you always hoped for, but only long enough to draw you back into a cycle they never intended to change. When a narcissist uses emotional bait like birthdays, anniversaries, memories, or shared milestones, it's because they know exactly how powerful nostalgia can be. They understand that you're someone who feels deeply, who remembers meaningful moments, who values emotional significance. So when they want you to break the silence, they pull on the emotional threads tied to the past. They may post an old song you both cherished, share a quote that reflects a moment you lived together, or reference something only the two of you would understand. These aren't sentimental gestures. They are strategic triggers designed to stir longing in your chest. They're trying to awaken the softer parts of you, the parts that miss connection, the parts that hope people can change, the parts that remember warmth instead of wounds. Emotional bait often appears near meaningful dates. They might post something somber or reflective on your birthday or around a holiday you once shared. They may casually mention to a mutual friend that they thought about you, knowing it will reach you. This selective narrative is meant to make you feel like the bond still exists, even though they're not communicating directly. It's a quiet message that says, I'm still here, without them risking direct exposure. They avoid direct vulnerability at all costs. Instead, they manipulate the emotional environment around you so that you feel compelled to move toward them. They may also use memory to destabilize you. They know recalling the good moments softens your stance. If they can get you to remember the laughter, the late night talks, the times they were charming and attentive, then they can temporarily cloud the harm they caused. This emotional shift serves their purpose because nostalgia weakens anger and confusion, making you more likely to reach out. This tactic is all about emotional stirring. They want you to feel that tug, that whisper of what if, that small flicker of hope. They know certain memories hold incredible power. Emotional bait isn't about the past, it's about influencing the choices you make now. And when you respond to that familiar ache by reaching out, you walk straight into their carefully crafted trap. When a narcissist begins trying to make you feel guilty, responsible, or obligated for their emotions, it's because they're setting the stage for you to be the one who breaks the silence. Guilt is one of their sharpest psychological tools, and they know how to use it with precision. They may not address you directly, but their silence, their posts, their expressions, their stories through others, all are designed to create subtle pressure on your conscience. They want you to feel that you owe them something, a message, an explanation, an apology, or a return to the connection. They cast themselves as the wounded one, the abandoned one, the misunderstood one, so that you begin to wonder whether you caused them pain. That wondering is exactly what they want because guilt softens your boundaries and responsibility weakens your stance. They may highlight your absence without saying your name. Maybe they post quotes about betrayal, loyalty, or people who disappear too quickly. Maybe they act downcast around mutual friends, quiet, withdrawn, making it seem like your distance has crushed them. They create a story where you appear cold or uncaring while they appear patient and forgiving. It's a setup designed to push you into feeling like you're the one who should take action. They know you don't like hurting people, even unintentionally. They know your empathy can make you feel responsible for emotions you didn't cause, and they exploit that tenderness. This guilt building stage often comes after their silence, their nostalgia bait, or their breadcrumbing hasn't worked fast enough. When the subtle hints fail, they escalate the manipulation. They want you to think you let them down. They want you to feel like the bond is breaking because of your distance. They want you to believe that your silence is creating their suffering.